that brings us to recognition of student, staff, and public, and we'll start with our Human Rights Day proclamation. Would someone like to make that resolution?
Madam Chair.
Please.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the attached proclamation recognizing December 10th, 2016 as Human Rights Day in Bloomington Public Schools.
Second.
Thank you. I will now read the proclamation. Whereas the Bloomington Public Schools join our nation in recognizing December 10th, 2016 as International Human Rights Day, and whereas Bloomington recognizes the importance of acknowledging the diversity that exists in our community as we strive for autonomous participation in our community affairs, and whereas the devastating impact of prejudice can be eliminated through the efforts of our schools and city in promoting human rights awareness, and whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights asserts all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and whereas the designation of a special Human Rights Day serves to remind us that basic human rights must be made available to all people. Therefore, be it resolved that the Bloomington Board of Education, Independent School District Number 271, Bloomington, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim December 10th, 2016 as Human Rights Day and ask all residents to continue their efforts in making Bloomington a model for fair and equal rights for all persons. Is there any discussion about this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. And at this time, I'd like to invite Xavier Bickett and Jared Lees from the Human Rights Commission to receive the proclamation. Would you like to say a few words?
Board members, thank you very much. My name is Xavier. This is Jared from the Bloomington Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Day is a time for people to reflect about the meaning, importance, and need for human rights. December 10th, 1948 was the date chosen to honor the United Nations General Assembly's adoption and proclamation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights arose directly from the experience of the Second World War and represents the first global expression of rights to which all human beings are inherently entitled. The Bloomington Human Rights Commission annually observes December 10th as the anniversary of this presentation and invites its residents to continue to work toward making Bloomington a model for fair and equal rights for all persons. And school board members, I just want to also extend an invite and encourage you to attend the reception for the Omar Bondurut Award. I think we were able to send an invite to all of you. It would mean a lot if you guys are able to attend that as well.
Thank you. And again, that Omar Bondurut is going to be Monday, December 5th, 2016, at a city council meeting. But in the meantime, next I would like to invite Ethan to go first tonight. Ethan Scotthammer, our student board rep from Kennedy High School. So go ahead.
All right. Upcoming at Kennedy, show choir is down to their last rehearsal before their holiday show on December 8th, 9th, and 10th. Kennedy's Theater is preparing for their winter one-act play, which is called The Lottery. Student government is selling candygrams. Students are having Ugly Sweater Day, and student government is planning for our Winter Spirit Week. Student government is spreading Indigenous peoples' awareness. Student government is setting up a winter movie night and planning on setting up a Newcomb tournament. Winter sports have just begun, and it is finals week. Students will be taking their finals on Wednesday and Thursday. And the Bloomington Student Advisory Council met and talked about what our main focus will be. We have narrowed it down to 4 ideas: the personal growth plan, time capsules, parking permits, and classroom sizes. Next meeting will be held in January.
Thank you. And that turns it over to Allie Anderson from Jefferson.
It's been a strong month at Jefferson. Here's a quick update of everything happening throughout the school. The marching band performed 3 times in Hawaii this past week, and they were a great representation of Jefferson at the 75th anniversary of the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Student Council is planning this year's first food drive, which will be December 5th through the 9th. At Jefferson, we are working hard to keep a positive and welcoming environment for everyone, especially after the election was such a big event this month. On November 29th, Jefferson is hosting a financial aid information session at 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium. Jefferson has a choir concert on December 9th and 10th and a band concert on December 13th. J-Corps had their clothing drive the past 2 weeks and is now hosting a karaoke night at 7 p.m. on December 1st. Winter sports are just starting to begin, and I'll have more to report as the seasons go on. Daniel Boy was elected president of the state DECA organization this month, and we had 8 students who signed national letters of intent to play athletics at a collegiate level. This is the last week of the first trimester. Students have been working hard and are now studying and preparing for finals on Wednesday and Thursday.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the students?
I have a question.
Please.
So this karaoke night, is this for students or can board members show up?
I
Or?
think anyone can show up. It's $5 and you get popcorn and lemonade, I heard.
Oh, wow, sounds cool. And I have a question for Ethan. You were talking about the Indigenous People Awareness Day. Do you have any more information on that you can speak about?
I actually do not.
Okay, sorry. I can get that for you. You can get that for me. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you for your report.
Time they go to Hawaii, do they
Yeah.
need school board chaperones? I
I
think,
think
pretty
so.
sure we need to make sure that's legit before we can approve it, so.
Good. That brings us to our public recognition. And Quinn Bergen is working on his Eagle Scout badge, and he has requested to address us. So would you like to step to the podium, Quinn? Thank you.
Hi, I am Quinn, and I am in Scout Troop 469. I am a Life Scout, and I am working on my Eagle. So, I'm going to tell you guys what it takes to be Eagle. So, I've been in Boy Scouts for about 4 years now, and I started from, the ranks are from Tenderfoot to Eagle. So, Tenderfoot to second class, first class, Star, then Life, and then Eagle. So, each rank you have to learn basics like first aid, camping, nature, cooking, etc. And for like the going on the other ranks, you have to do some kind like of a job. So like quartermaster, you have to like clean the trailer. And for me, I am scribe, which means that I take notes during every scout meeting. So also merit badges are required to get Eagle. So there are 21 that are required for Eagle, so you have to have 13 that are mandatory, and then there are 8 that are optional. So like rifle shooting, law, astronomy, fingerprinting, and I'm working on 2 left, which are citizenship of the community, which is why I'm here talking to you guys, and personal fitness. So, and I'm also doing a project, and my project is going to my elementary school, Normandale Hills, and I'm going to make some benches for them for like an outdoor classroom. So reason why I want to get Eagle is because it's about 6% of people, of boys all around the U.S. that don't get, that get Eagle because, I don't know, it's really hard for them. But for me, I can do that. And also my brother, my grandfather, and my father were also got Eagle, so I want to be a little bit more, I want to get it as well. So even though that it's hard, it's worth it.
Thank you. As I told Quinn, I am the mother of an Eagle Scout, so I know how much work goes into that. So good luck to you, and keep at it. I believe there was someone else in the audience that wanted to address the board. Now would be the time to step forward.
My name is Angela Bryant. I am a parent here in the district. And I just have a statement that I prepared that I just want to read because this has really been on my mind lately. So I'm a parent of a student of color here in Bloomington, as well as a trusted adult friend to many other students. I've been very active over the years in the PTA as well as our local sports, and I care very much about all of the kids here in our district. The day after the election, an incident allegedly occurred at Jefferson High School in which a student exclaimed, "Let's build a wall." After that, a group of students built a wall to block other students from passing. When word moved through the students of this having occurred, many parents heard about it and began calling the school. An email was then sent to parents with the subject line, "Update on the past couple days at Jefferson." That email strategically stated that there was no direct evidence of an incident, that the school was confident it was just a rumor for the day after the election. What the email conveniently looked past was that an event with the exact same words and very similar actions had in fact happened the week before in the same school. It came up quickly with minimal time to have properly investigated to a point which many would consider confidence. What I was told by an administrator when talking to them about this incident was that the first incident was handled, the students were told it wasn't okay, and that it was taken care of. However, I have to ask you, how is handling your hate speech in that manner working? As you may hear tonight, it seems to be not handled very well at all, because we have a culture that's breeding right now that's making a lot of your students feel very unsafe. Students of color and others feeling targeted for religion continue to report privately to each other and some trusted adults that incidents of discrimination are happening frequently here in our schools, and the administration continues to deny the serious psychological impacts these actions are having on our students. Our students shouldn't feel targeted by hateful speech or actions in the school. It's your job to teach them love and acceptance and to help each other, and we entrust you to help our students feel safe. I come to you today to ask you that you encourage the administration to treat hate speech and hateful actions appropriately under the already available discrimination policies that you have as a board in this district. I ask that the administration be honest with parents and tell us the whole picture when these situations arise, instead of brushing them aside with strategically worded emails. Because when you do that, our kids feel dismissed, and they feel unsafe, and they don't feel taken seriously. When you don't take a hard line on these actions, the hate spreads. Students and teachers alike have stepped over the line in our district, and it needs to stop. As you'll see, because you don't put your foot down on the first couple incidents and take them as what they are. They're not just basic bullying, which isn't okay either. This is hate speech. It's not okay to invoke building a wall as a joke. And other districts around here have taken a hard line, and we haven't. And that falls to you as the administration and the school board. And I'm here to support anyone who wants to get up and share the other incidents that are occurring. And there are many more who couldn't make it tonight. But I want to at least get started by telling them that they are supported and they are loved by the parents in this district. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward? Now would be the time.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Gaska, and I have a nephew who is a student in the Bloomington Public Schools and a niece as well. And a couple weeks ago, I was made aware of a very disturbing situation that involved a teacher at one of your middle schools calling my nephew estúpido, which means stupid in Spanish, and then also threatened to have him deported once Donald Trump built the wall if he didn't get his homework done. He called him stupid on more than one occasion. We met with the teacher, with the principal, and with the superintendent. The teacher did apologize for his actions. He said that he used a poor choice of words, and our concerns were not taken seriously. We asked that the teacher be permanently removed from the classroom, but instead my nephew ended up being switched into a different classroom. Continuing to allow this teacher to set this example for students. I see that you guys have Human Rights Day, and I'm hearing about all of these wonderful things around equity and ensuring the safety of all of the students in the district, but your actions are showing something completely different. I have heard from many families in the district that there have been a lot of different situations that are not being taken seriously. They are being pacified, and the fact that the school district is deciding to avoid actually taking responsibility and holding teachers accountable for their actions with hate speech and threats to our children who are already afraid because of everything that is going on politically in our country is absolutely wrong. I think the first step that the district needs to take is accepting the fact that there are issues that need to be addressed instead of pretending that these issues are not a serious concern, because there are many families that are being affected. There are many families that don't feel safe, and the fact that you guys are trying to pretend that this is not an issue is very, very problematic. I spoke to someone at the city pages and informed them of the situation that was going on, and then the Bloomington Human Resources person, who was not in the meeting with myself and my sister and the superintendent and the principal and the teacher, stated in the City Pages article that the teacher did not apologize for his actions because preliminary investigations show that the incident actually did not happen, which is a complete lie. So at this point, I personally do not have faith that you guys will be transparent in this investigation that you're launching. And it's very, very unfortunate that families don't feel safe. It's very unfortunate that you guys choose to ignore the situation and pretend that you don't have an issue that needs to seriously be addressed. And I hope that moving forward, after you hear from more families, and that you all can start taking these issues seriously and actually practice what you preach, and not just have all of this fancy language in your policy books and human rights days and all of these other things, because actions speak louder than words. And right now the actions are showing that you guys are not here for all of the families the way that you should be. So I hope that you guys start addressing these issues and start taking them very seriously, because we are going to continue to stand with the families in the Bloomington School District, and we're not going to back down. We are going to protect our children if you guys are not willing to. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward at this time? Hearing none, we'll continue with our meeting. Brings us to Part B on the agenda. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Part A.
I'm sorry, I was giving time for other people to speak because I don't have a child here, so I was just not jumping up right away. Was there any other family that wanted to speak? May I say a few words? Hi, my name is Molly Glasgow. I'm a resident of Minneapolis. Like I mentioned, I don't have a child in this school district, but I'm really concerned about what I'm hearing that's happening here. I'm speaking specifically about the situation that Stephanie was talking about the 8th grade teacher at Olson Middle School. It's one thing for a teacher to have political views, but it's another thing for those political views to be taken out individually on a student. The response that the principal sent out, that the school district sent out, was that you want your schools to be safe environments for children. I completely agree with that, and for children to feel uncomfortable to the point where they do not want to be in class when that teacher is there and then need to be switched to another class is not creating that environment. And it's making it sound like the student is making something up when it's the teacher and the teacher's behavior that is the concerning part. This is about children and students. I know that we're facing a lot in our political climate, but we're talking about the kids that are our family members and the kids that are going to grow up and are going to make this world what we need it to be. We really do need to have the schools be a safe environment. If we want children to learn, we have to make sure that we're supporting them in all of the development stages. You know, I think that it being wrong should be enough. But when we look at it and we look at the emotional impact, the psychological impact, and the neurological impact, children are in a place where they are still learning and becoming the people that they're going to be, and we need to support them in all of that and what it means. And what particularly concerns me is seeing people who have come forward about the 8th grade teacher, Greg Gilbert, have brushed
I'm
off
sorry,
these...
I'm going to have to ask you to stop now, because we requested that there would be no names. We do not discuss personnel matters in public.
Okay,
So I'd appreciate it if you take your seat, because we don't.
apologize, I did not hear that announcement.
Well, thank you.
Am I able to finish my statement?
If you mention no names,
Okay.
I have to defer to her.
I think, though, it's just a warning that we don't talk about personnel.
I understand
in
that. I
particular.
didn't receive that explanation. I wouldn't have put the name out there if not. But what is concerning to me about that situation is the people who have come forward in defense of that teacher have noted that the same teacher has made fun of students and that that's a pattern, and that poking fun at students is something that he is doing, and it was not a racist attack or an attack on this particular student, but that in trying to get students to do their work, this teacher will say other things in a funny manner that's picking on the students. And that's really what I find scary. What's happening in terms of hate speech is not okay. And what's happening in terms of creating a culture where students can be made fun of for not doing their work instead of giving the support that they need is also not okay. And so those who have defended the teacher are actually pointing out another reason that I really hope that you take action on this. So thank you.
Okay, now we will move to Part A on the agenda. Someone like to move Part A?
So moved?
Thank you. That's our minutes, our personnel items, our field trips, our grants, and our contracts, and our finance. All in favor of Part A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Brings us to Part B. First on the agenda is a report on the Minnesota Department of Education ESSA Technical Committee update. And Dave Heisted's going to share with us.
Thank you, Chair Bartolotta, Superintendent, and board members. I gave you a brief update at the board retreat about discussions that were taking place at the state level. And there are 3 different committees that I serve on. One deals with the assessments, and another deals with the accountability system in terms of ranking schools. And the third is a 5th indicator for accountability. And I'll just briefly indicate where each of those committees are at this point. These committees are all making recommendations to the commissioner. The commissioner can take the recommendations or not, and then we'll decide what is going into a state plan. But as you can imagine, it's difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen given the change in federal leadership at the Education Department, whether the regulations that are currently in place will continue to be in place or they will be changed or eliminated. So those were the caveats. The previous law was called No Child Left Behind. This law is called Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. So if you hear somebody talk about ESSA, it's the new law. The new law establishes that there will be assessments from grades 3 through 8, and in science there'll be grade span assessments, but 3 through 8 for reading and math. Beyond that, the accountability system was worked out by the Department of Education. The previous accountability system included 4 basic elements: proficiency on state tests, growth on state tests, gap reduction, so that students of color would make greater progress than other students, and also the graduation rates. So there were 4 elements. The new law specifies that each state should come up with a 5th element having to do with non-testing areas. So the committee on the 5th indicator discussed a lot of different potential measures, but decided that as for this year, the only data that we have complete data from all schools is on attendance. So they are going to kind of take the lead that Bloomington has had in place with our school reports, and either report out the percentage of students attending 90% of the time or more, or the percentage of students attending 95%. So at 95%, you could miss 8 school days and still be at 95%. If at 90%, I think it's 16 or 17. So basically, the idea is for schools that had lots of truancy, students that aren't attending on a regular basis, this would be a way of getting school support and action around attendance. But that group also said that ultimately what they would like to see is a measure of non-academics, which would involve social emotional learning or college readiness or climate of the building. So there will be more committees to decide the long-range future of this fifth indicator, but for this year, it'll be based on attendance. The recommendation from the assessment committee to the head of assessment at the state level is to pursue replacing the MCA test with an ACT test or an SAT test. So the MCA test is the one that's aligned to our state standards and has been given for many years now. We have a situation in the state where many parents are opting out of the state test, and that some students don't feel that for whatever reason, there's lack of motivation to do well on the test, as well as the fact that all students who are applying to two-year or a technical college or a four-year college can complete the ACT and have that count towards their enrollment. So the committee unanimously recommended that the state pursue this. But the state has indicated there's lack of funds, there's lack of, they have to go through a process. So the MCA won't go away this year, and it may not go away next year. But if the recommendation is accepted, it could be in 2 or 3 years we would have an ACT test taking the place of the MCA. And on parent opt-outs, we call it opt-out when a parent asks that their child not be assessed. The state has an obligation to create a form and put on their website so parents can use it to opt students out of testing with the MCA. On the other hand, the federal law says that if you have less than 95% of any subgroup tested, those students will be counted as if they got a 0 on the test. And so it's a real, you know, kind of a conflicting situation where in the past, if a parent opted a student out, maybe the student had test anxiety or some other situation that made it difficult for them to test, there weren't any consequences at the school level. Now, because of the rule to count any student as if they had a 0 on the test after 95%. So here's an example. If you had 20 white American students in a school, if 19 out of the 20 tested, that would be 95%. If only 18 tested, that would be 90%. Well, that 18th student would be counted as if they got a 0 on the test. So, and then the proficiency rates for schools would actually go down and be part of the accountability system. So in the past, there weren't any major consequences for not taking tests. Now, students also have the right to refuse to take an the MCA test, but it's the same situation as parent opt-out. If the student refuses or the parent opts out, it does count against the school now. So I thought it would be important to share that with the community. In many sources, we've shared this with the PTA representatives at the district level. Parents have a right to opt out, but there are consequences for the school. And then, as part of the assessment team, there's been serious discussion of translating one or more of the MCA tests. The Department of Education is highly encouraging that at least one major language in the state be translated. The state has looked into a variety of different options. The one that the committee liked the best would be if a student comes to a word that they don't know on the math test, they could hover over it and the computer would actually say that word in Spanish or in Somali or in Hmong, whatever language was the default language. And that's fairly expensive technology, but it's something that might really help all students who have English as a second language. So the problem is it's going to cost additional funds, and we're not sure if additional funds will be forthcoming from the Department of Education to cover it. So those are the main 5 things that I mentioned at the board retreat. These aren't nailed down. That's why I didn't put a big PowerPoint up, because these things could change tomorrow or at any point in the future. As policies are reviewed, the new Secretary of Education will be reviewing all the guidance for the ESSS law and perhaps making changes and perhaps not. So I'd be glad to take any questions.
Madam Chair? Yes, thanks for coming, David. I appreciate the information. Put my glasses on, see if I can read my own handwriting. Just curious to know if we have any ideas what might identify the most common reasons that we would see students not attending. You mentioned that attendance is one of the factors,
Yeah.
and we'd like to keep it at 95%
Yeah.
or above. Other than, I'm sick, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah, illness is the #1 indicator. There are excused and non-excused absences, but in most cases, the absences are excused. The state doesn't have a way of separating those out, so this indicator will be based on all absences. So probably the #1 area is the flu. You know, if we have a hard flu season, our attendance rate is going to go down. But it's those other areas of lack of motivation or inability to get up in the morning or catch the bus on time, those areas that we can provide support to, that our Learning Supports Division is working with each school on. They have a concerted effort to be working on attendance issues. And even in the areas of illness, there may be things that can be done with certain types of allergies or other kinds of things, if we can get medical attention to the situation. But in Bloomington, we don't have a huge truancy problem compared to some other districts, but there are some students who are truant, and that's kind of goes into a court situation. But I think we're really focused on those students who are attending just a little bit less than 95% of the day to try to encourage them to come. We found that there's a very large correlation between attending at 95% of possible days and improved math scores. Not just math achievements, but how much is learned during the year. And so we've demonstrated that with a number of schools. And so each school is working on increasing that percentage of students attending at 95% or more, and we're hoping that it does have an impact on our math achievement and math growth.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you. Rick?
One quick question. Just so we're clear, don't send your kid to school sick, please.
Yeah.
We don't want to spread colds. Now, with the, you had mentioned if 95% don't take a test,
Yeah.
does that mean none of the other kids count, or?
No, just that individual student score, after 95 is reached, each successive student not testing would count as a 0, basically, in the proficiency score. And so, unfortunately, my former employer, Minneapolis Schools, had a high school where 2/3 of the students didn't take the test, and they tended to be the highest achieving students, and so the percent proficient for that school plummeted from like 70% to 40%. And so they ended up in the newspaper as the biggest loss of any of the high schools. And it had nothing to do with the students, learning. But that's one of the issues that's leading to this recommendation to have the ACT or a college readiness test like that take the place of the MCAs in high school is that it's consequential for students. We know it's one important element for getting into a 2-year or 4-year college, and kids take it seriously. Parents like it too. Parents aren't opting out of our ACT test very often.
Well, so it seems like it's their way of trying to encourage the school to encourage the parent to encourage the kid to take the test. And it's sort of this, well, yeah, they don't have to, but your school's going to end up in the papers being this terrible school with low test scores if you don't get the parents to agree to this test that they don't think is right for their children. So,
Yeah,
people realize that that's a bad idea, right?
It's a very problematic situation. I testified at the legislature last year, encouraging us to come up with a state test that teachers and students enjoy, get meaning from, that they learn from, so that you can make improvements in your instruction, or, students see their own progress. We find that our MAP test in Bloomington has many more of those features that make it motivational and much more useful to teachers. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to substitute the MAP test for the MCAs in the near future. That option was pretty much closed off. So, but in the future, I think we should end up with high-quality assessments that are beneficial for most purposes, including informing students of their college readiness status, as well as how much learning took place during the year, and to help teachers evaluate the effectiveness of their instruction.
So I had a question, but now as you're talking, I have another question. You just said that the opportunity to replace the MCAs with the MAP has been cut off. How so?
To be one of the districts that would be allowed to try something different, you have to be part of an innovation. And right now, the state is elected not to be part of that innovation status with the feds. There is another law that we worked on last year with the school board called the Innovation Zone. That has some potential to allow for different kinds of assessments, but we were told by the business partnership and by one branch of the government that that wasn't acceptable to change the assessment. So I'm not sure that I would hold out much hope for it in this current session.
Okay, so my other question was, you had said that we're seeing a rise in students and parents opting out of the MCAs. Do you have any numbers for here in Bloomington? I mean, what are we talking, 2, 3, or are we talking 40, 50, or?
I believe we had 20 last year.
Okay.
We're up from 8 the previous year and up from 1 the year before that. So I don't know if that's exponential growth, but it's more than linear.
Okay.
But it's not the huge problem that we're seeing in Minneapolis.
Not yet, anyway.
And the most frequent reason, what I do is I ask the parents to write me a letter and the principal indicating which test, and then the reason for the opting out, and the most frequent reason is test anxiety.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Hess.
you.
I guess in switching over to the part A and B of our agenda, I missed asking if there were anyone from the government classes attending tonight's meeting. Being that it's finals week, there might not be any, but no, I don't see any come forward. Okay, just making sure. That brings us to number 2, our policy review. The first policy we're going to review is license status. Would someone like to move that resolution?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 424, license status.
Thank you. And our Director of Human Resources, Mary Burrows, is here to address this. Thank you.
Okay, Chair Barlotta, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board. I have 3 policies that are coming tonight for your review. The first one is policy 424, license status. This policy ensures that we hire properly licensed teachers. Obviously, if we don't hire licensed teachers, then there are things that can happen. Our funding can be affected, so it's a good policy to have and enforce. It does not negate, though, the teacher's responsibility of holding that license themselves and ensuring that they get their license renewed in time. The only change to this policy from previously is we updated language to meet the standard language of the rest of our policies. So that's the only revision that was made.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mary regarding this resolution? Go ahead.
Just might want to add that all these policies that were coming out have been reviewed by the policy subcommittee.
Correct.
And so some questions were asked then, and they may have been answered in the process.
Thank you.
It's a policy committee, not a policy subcommittee.
Hearing from our new chair that we elected at our last meeting.
We're an actual committee.
We're a committee. If we had another committee inside that committee, it would be a subcommittee.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Is that in the policy somewhere?
You three can't talk to each other. That'd be your subcommittee.
All right. Is there anything else regarding this policy? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Next, we have deletion of policy 429, job descriptions. Someone like to move that resolution?
Madam Chair, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 deletes policy 429, job descriptions.
Second.
Thank you. Mary?
Okay. Again, this is a policy, it is not a mandatory policy under MSBA, and no model policy exists for this, so it's kind of an extra policy that the school district had. I'm recommending deletion because of that, and also because it refers to superintendent job description, which is controlled under statute and outlined. So it's not a necessary, it's an extra policy.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Also, having been reviewed by the policy committee, please signify by saying aye your approval to pass this resolution.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Deletion of policy 451, evaluation.
Madam
Tom?
Chair,
Okay.
be resolved the School Board of Independent School District 271 deletes policy 451, evaluation.
Second?
Thank you. Mary?
As the other policy, this is an extra policy that was put into place before statute took over teacher evaluation and principal evaluation. It's not mandatory, and no model policy exists under MSBA, and like other extra policies, we usually recommend deleting them.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this?
And this is also in contracts of
It's under,
employees.
it's in statute contract, yeah, it's a
Okay.
well-governed topic.
Okay. All in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Policy 420, communicable diseases. Someone like to move that one? Rick?
Madam Chair, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 420, communicable diseases.
Okay, thank you. And Andy Kubis is coming to address this one for us.
Good evening, Chair Barlotta, school board members. Policy 420 is to promote and protect the health and safety of our students through communicable diseases, easy for me to say. This policy also has gone to the School Board Policy Committee with minimal changes in this. The changes that were made in this policy were the regular edits that we have updated for the wording in the policies. And the second part that you'll see most often is changing from physician solely to, there's things added for nurse practitioners, like a more broad description of someone who could give medical orders than just a physician. And so that's all the changes that are in this particular policy.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Jim?
Maybe for the listening audience, and these policies that we are approving are just general policies. within them is a list of regulations where it goes into all the detail. And we don't bring all of those up at this time during the board meetings because they're just too many pages of the various things. But they are available online, and you can see the entire policy and the regulation that pertains to that policy. So if anybody's interested, or we recommend that that's where you can go look and see all of the things that they're talking about.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Revised Policy 906, volunteers.
Madam Chair,
Please.
resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 906, volunteers.
Second.
Thank you.
Policy 906 is our volunteer policy. It's there to help individualize instruction and promote the community being in our schools. You'll see some changes in this policy. The old policy in its old form had some antiquated language in it that was changed. It referred to things as resource speakers, which was a practice in the Bloomington Public Schools in the past. It also referred to the community resource pool, which was another an antiquated service that we used. And there were several antiquated procedures that were in it. So the changes that you'll see is that language has been struck from this policy to make it more general and more applicable and more nimble. The other piece is in the tier that you saw in there, and again, the policy committee looked at it. It's simpler to figure out where do volunteers fit inside a 4-tier system, and then how then they proceed to make sure that our students are safe in the schools with volunteers coming in. And the last page, what you'll see is it spells out exactly how that happens, how volunteers come in, how background checks are done, who is responsible for those as well. So it's in a nutshell, it's a sleeker version of the policy, which allows it to be more nimble and easier to apply.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Please.
Just a quick comment. I want to take an opportunity to say thank you to all our past, our present, and our future volunteers. Anyone who's volunteered in our school, any of our campuses, just want to say a really big thank you. We wouldn't be the same without our volunteers. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Brings us to revised policy 701.3, fund balance. Okay. No.
That the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 701.3, fund balance.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Our Executive Director of Financing and Support Services, Rod Zivkovich, is here to address this one.
Chair Barlotta, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. This policy had some minor changes, basically due to additional funds that have come in or how we look at things within the district. One of the big changes was that instead of just general fund operations, we included transportation in the overall fund balance. Also, when this policy was first written back in 2007, we did not have a capital projects levy. Just wanted to clarify that that was not part of the general operational piece also. So other than that, those are the only real changes to this policy.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments, please?
Yes, during our policy committee meeting, the policy committee, we had some suggestions under the procedures of the minimum fund balance, because it was stated that it'd be a minimum of 5% and a maximum of 8%. And so we had a discussion on, well, what do we do if we get above that 8%? Because we have no procedures for getting rid of if we have more than 8%. And do we really want to do anything if we have more than 8%? Because that's kind of a good problem to have if you have more than 8% in your fund balances. So that's a change in the procedures that we decided that it's best just to get rid of that maximum of 8%. So moving forward, our policy would be that to maintain a minimum of 5%. Is that correct?
And that's of committed and undesignated funds.
Yes. Okay, so that was one of the things that came to the committee that we had a discussion about that the committee wanted to change.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Go ahead.
I guess it's important to point out that the point of taking away the 8% cap was not that we wanted to suddenly hoard money, but that there are specific actions that are laid out if it were to drop below 5. And we said, what we should do if it goes above 8 is have a discussion on what we should do with that instead of prescribing that now. If that ends up being an issue where all of a sudden, I don't know what it would be, but we wake up one day with a bucket full of money and we say, oh, we have 12%. Well, now the board would then have a discussion, okay, what are we going to do with this money versus prescribing it now where it says specifically if it goes below 5, for instance, action must be temporary and be resolved within the next budgetary cycle. So we've already prescribed to the district, here's what to do. And since that wasn't already in the policy, we decided, well, we'll just remove the cap.
And the MSBA model policy does not have a maximum on it as well as one of the other reasons.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Revised policy 701.4, budget process.
Madam Chair.
Please.
Be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 701.4, budget process.
Second? Who's the second?
Second.
Thank you.
This policy was also, since it ties directly to the fund balance policy, needed to be updated for the same type of categories. The only other change addition to this in the regulations were that in the past we had a fixed dollar amount for operating capital, food service, and community services. The board committee recommended that we change that to a percentage of the total expenses, similar to what we do with the general fund. So we made those changes also in this process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
You know, I think I probably should point out, since we had the conversation at the policy committee meeting, that one of the issues that came up with that is we said, well, if we have a fixed amount and the budget changes, you know, it could be one year that's a 10% fund balance, and the next year it could be a 25% fund balance in these particular areas. And so we thought, well, we had the discussion and decided it probably makes more sense to just have it as a target percentage like we do for the general fund versus a simple dollar amount that over time that it may or may not make sense. You know, one year it might make sense to have $1 million as a fund balance, but another year maybe you think, oh, we should probably have 2 or 300,000, right? So that was the process that went in to changing that.
Thank you.
That about right?
Sounds right. I thought Rod covered it, so I shouldn't say anything.
All right. How about revised policy 904.1, distribution of materials on school district property by non-school persons?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 904.1, distribution of materials on school district property by non-school persons.
Thank you.
Second.
And thank you.
To Don.
Rick Kaufman, our Executive Director of Community Relations, is here.
Madam Chair, Superintendent Fujitaki, members of the board, and student representatives. What I would bring to you is an updated policy, first drafted in 2006, formerly under the title Distribution of Non-Curricular Materials. This policy and subsequent regulations are updated. This is not, or the MSCA does not have a required policy of this nature, but does provide a model policy. The language is included in there, formatted to Bloomington's standard district terms.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of this policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Thank you. Thank you. One more. Bloomington Advocacy Council Plan and Membership. Director Corman?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the plan for the formation of the Bloomington Advocacy Council, BAC, and approves the membership for the BAC for the 2016-2017 school year. Now I'm gonna go down. You
Wait,
go
we
down.
need a second here.
I'll
Oh, I
second that.
was, sorry, I gotta read the names.
Oh, you wanna do
before
that? Okay,
you go
I'm
for
sorry.
the second. That's what I was gonna say. Okay, if you go down then, you will see the names that have been approved by the Legislative Committee for the board, and those are the names that we are bringing to the rest of the board for approval. So for the Bloomington Advocacy Council, BAC membership approved, looking for approval for today, but here is the list of members. As you can see, it will be the Board Legislative Committee, Nellie Corman, Rick Oliva, Don Steigaff, parents, Stacy Wells, Diana Salas, City Stromnem, Muna Arman, retired staff board member Lynn Scher, residents without early childhood school-age children, Dennis Kane, Gretchen Ronca, and the volunteer leader will be Heather Starks.
Thank you. Now I can ask for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who wants to take the lead on this? Guess we talk to Nellie as your chair. Does anyone have any questions for her?
Madam Chair,
Please.
just a quick comment. Just want to say thanks for putting this together. I know the timeline on putting the people together was a little condensed this go around, and a big thank you to the aforementioned members. Thank you for stepping up and being a part of this. I don't know if any of them are here tonight. I'm sure they're all listening on TV, but just a big thanks. This is a much needed plan and council, so thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you, please.
Yeah, you guys did a great job in pulling together these volunteers and getting them to confirm in, what, a week? That's pretty impressive. Was this, were there more people that you wanted to include on this?
We still have a few people that we haven't been able to confirm with, so
Okay.
you will see a few more names probably in the future.
Okay.
So, you know, a lot of people were gone and other things with no school, so,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so.
Do you guys have a, like a meeting when this is gonna start type thing, or?
That is part of the plan, you know. The first step was to get the approval from the board,
Okay.
and then we can start planning the next step, which would be, meeting. But I know that, you know, we have talked to all these members, parents, members in our community, and they were really, really excited, and really a lot of people that were looking forward to have an opportunity of working together with the school, with the school district. So I think this is gonna be great.
Questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Thank you. Brings us to board member reports.
I'll go ahead and start, I guess.
Please.
So last week, we had our policy committee meeting, and in the infinite wisdom of the committee, they elected me as their chair. I think it was 2-0. I don't think Jim voted. You know, we talked about, I think, about 10 different policies, of which 9 were brought before tonight. Does that sound right? I think 1 we sent back that we wanted more information on. And also, there were 6 other policies that we talked about, considered adding to our policies. And they were governing school board and administration. And of those 6 that we talked about, there were 2 that the committee decided that we want more information about. So that'll go back to the administration, and those will come to the committee in our next meeting, which will be February. And if we want to add those policies. And also today, the calendar committee met for the first time. And there's a couple new things on the calendar committee. This is the first time we've had a parent rep on the calendar committee, at least first time in a long time. So that's a good thing to get, parent perspective. We have 10,000 students, and the calendar affects, them and their families' lives, so it's good to have a parent rep to speak to that. We also have a representative from the transportation and custodial, which is good because oftentimes their contracts might be different than the teachers' contracts, and we're trying to figure out, well, when can we have a calendar? And so it's good to have someone to speak to transportation and custodial and grounds and those type of things. Ended up having 2 options that'll be sent to the, all the sites for them to vote on, and then we'll go through all our various stakeholders, through the administration and athletics and PTSA, and then hopefully it'll come before the board for approval in January, and then we're hoping to meet again in the spring and get the 2018-19 calendar done. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, 'cause last time, weren't you planning on doing a 2-year calendar?
We were, but
Then you didn't? or
well,
something?
we had some contract things
Had
kind
other
of got in
things
the
that
way
you had to handle? Okay.
of the meeting, so.
So is the idea, though, if you do a 2-year calendar, you'd only meet once every 2 years? Or you'd only have to?
That would be ideal, yeah.
Together?
Unless we had to make changes, because, but ideally it'd be nice to let, the schools and the parents all know more than a year in advance what the school calendar is going to be like.
Well, and that's why I ask, something for the committee to consider is, because if you plan something 2 years out in advance and someone's saving for their trip to Hawaii for the Jefferson Band concert or whatever, and then the committee meets later on and changes it, that can, when I worked at the college, that happened, and there were some parents that weren't happy, but we accommodated them. But just so, if you make something 2 years in advance, people assume this is the calendar and this is what it's gonna be. So if you're
Well, it
trying to
would-
make big plans for them,
Unless
it
there
could
was
affect them.
some big issue, like, legislation forces to make a change or something, or the contracts force us to make a change. I don't see why we would change our calendar. So if we made a 2-year calendar, I'm quite confident that it would not change.
I'm just saying, it's happened before.
Well, anything can happen.
I guess I could go next. We did have the policy committee meeting. Director Bennett already explained that. We met with the board student advisory council met with middle school students today. We had a very engaging discussion. We talked about curriculum. We talked about the centennial. And then I left the last 15, 20 minutes for them to talk about whatever they wanted. For curriculum, we had Marcy Koval and Jenna Mitchler attended and asked some questions around regarding math, curriculum, and about the use of technology, using hardcover books versus the Chromebooks. The students said there's plus and minus to both, like if your Chromebook runs out of power or if you lose access to Wi-Fi, now all of a sudden it's nice to have that paper copy available. But at the same time, they really appreciated the fact that, one of the students said, well, if I'm doing the homework in my math book and I get stuck, and I don't know, and I have a question, I'm pretty much stuck. But if I'm doing it on my Chromebook, most of the questions have links to references or videos or other material that'll help explain the problem. So they really like the fact that they could use the technology to help them learn in that way. So it was good to hear that the technology that we have is really, for the most part, people like, they have problems. One of them said, yeah, mine broke and my Wi-Fi doesn't work all the time, but that's, in general, they liked it. For the centennial celebration, I sent out a note to the board, so you'll see kind of my notes. But one that I wanted to point out that one student brought up that I would have never thought of probably in a million years is he said, we should write a list of current slang, so in 20 years when they open it up, they'll know the words that we used to use. And it was funny because we were like, in the, 70s, it was things were groovy, and then things were hip, and then things were cool, and they're like, yeah, now we say that things are lit. And I was like, lit? What? Who says that? Well, I guess I'm just old. I haven't heard these words before. But I was like, oh, that would be a funny thing to throw in the time capsule. So something for the time capsule committees to consider. And then in the last part, when it was open for discussion, one of the things that caught my attention is one of the students said, well, I think it's called the Ambassadors Program, and they help welcome new students to the schools. And she said, it would be really great if we could, we use this as how do we welcome new families to the district. And she said, well, we have all these Chromebooks, we could have a Google chat, and all the new students could get on there and they could all meet each other, and we could be on there as ambassadors and talk to them. And we'd have this group, so right away, when they are new to the district, we could help welcome them to the district that way. And I thought, oh, you know what, that's a great idea, and that's why we have these conversations. So that's just a couple of points from the notes from this evening, and like I said, I sent you the rest in an email. So that concludes my report.
Might as well continue the line then. I attended the Community Education Advisory Committee meeting, which was interesting, and we'll hear more about that later tonight. And I also am the representative to TIES, the consortium. They had their annual meeting in November, and they always serve, let's see, it was a good lunch, I guess, is what I can come away with. We talked about a lot of things, and there's still a lot of technology programs out there and advances being made in them that they're trying to establish with all the districts. Some are buying it, and as you know, some aren't. So anyhow, it was a good meeting. That's my report.
Just really briefly, as you can tell by our earlier conversation, the Legislative Committee has met and has been busy getting this new legislative action group off the ground. And I also had a chance to attend the Community Education Star Awards. And for those of people that aren't familiar, community ed really encompasses such a huge amount of people. From everything from early childhood programs to our Kids Safari programs, to our youth programs, to adult basic education and other adult enrichment. So there's a large group, wide spectrum of different people recognized for their great work in the district, and it was great to see some of the stuff that's going on. So it's a great event. That's it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just a little addition to that legislative committee report. As we have mentioned to you before, we were making plans of meeting with the legislators by the end of this month, but unfortunately, there were a few of them that were not able to make it to that date that we had proposed, so we're moving it to probably mid towards the end of January.
Well, since there's a new legislator who hasn't been sworn in yet, do we have to wait till that individual gets sworn in as a legislator to have the meeting? Does that make sense?
Well, this will be on January, so.
Will be by then.
He will be in by then, and we have already contacted him and let him know that this is our plan, so definitely he's planning on attending.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I'm trying to do better at condensing my report, so we'll see if I've done well. The Board Student Advisory Council, the high school students met last Monday, was it, Ethan? Yeah, and we were over at Kennedy. And I just want to just quickly highlight what they went over. First of all, this young lady and this young man ran the meeting. Tom and Rick and I just kind of sat in the back. We're there as a resource to answer questions, but they did a fabulous job of keeping the students on track. They had an agenda. They kept the meeting going. They had a purpose. There was a start time and an end time. There was enough time for discussion, but it was, I can't say that I was surprised, but I was exceptionally impressed with the way the students handled that particular meeting. So it was a lot of fun to hear the conversation they had, to watch them winnow down the items that some of the students wanted to talk about. They narrowed it down to a couple items that maybe they're going to put some energy and effort into. And then they decided, how about if half of us work on this topic and half work on this topic? It was really, really impressive to sit back and listen and learn from these students. Also had an opportunity to partake over at the Ridgeview Family Breakfast. Excuse me, this is they've been doing it for years and years and years, I think. Many schools in the district have something similar to this. I know that Oak Grove Elementary has a grandparents' breakfast. Happened to be the very same day. I can't remember what day this was. I think it was last Thursday, something like that.
That would have been like Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
We didn't have school Thursday, so.
That's right. The Thursday I was eating a different meal on Thursday. But this is parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, community members. Doesn't matter who you are, come on over, have a breakfast. I love serving. There were omelets, sweet rolls, juice, orange juice, apple juice, strawberries, yeah, you name it, it was there. And if you went away hungry, it was because you didn't take the food. It's a great way to connect with a student, with a school, with a student. Much of the staff was there. I saw a lot of district members came there. It's just a lot of fun. So it's something that one of the schools, I know, again, many of the schools do it. I don't know exactly what they're called. Again, Oak Grove Elementary has Grandparents' Day, but it's a great way to connect with the schools and just to see what they're doing and to listen and learn and have a meal along the way. Excuse me. 917 had an emergency board meeting, and these board meetings happen every now and then. This particular board meeting had to do with some additional costs that came up with respect to our addition to the Alliance building. Now, anyone that knows, for those of you that don't understand what 917 is, that district only owns one building, and we are currently adding on to it to accommodate some new, some much-needed space for more students. There were soil tests, and they drilled down where they're going to put the foundation for the new addition, and the soil test came up with some old tires and some treated lumber for retaining walls or something. And so they had to abate that. That was a cost per yardage, and we went over how much it would cost, how many dump trucks it would take to take care of that. But that's part of the fun and the glamour that comes along with being on the board. You get to do that kind of stuff. That particular meeting is out at Dakota County Tech, and that is, when you look out the front door, you can see the Coke refinery. So for those of you that are looking for a landmark, it's very close to the Coke refinery down there. Anyways, that ends my report.
And Madam Chair, is there some additional cost for all of that stuff that they're doing to our district?
There is, and well, not to our district. We have a fund built in. There's some extra money that we put into this bid, into this contract, in anticipation of things just like this.
Thank you.
And we took that out of 917's fund balance. I believe it was fund balance.
Thank you. We'll turn it to the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one request and 3 announcements. The first request is for a motion to establish a study session on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. here at the Educational Service Center for the purpose of discussing organizational matters for the school board for 2017.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor of an organizational meeting on Tuesday, January 3rd at 7 p.m., please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. There you go.
And this is organizational study session.
Study session, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, the first announcement is the World's Best Workforce Annual Public Meeting will be held on December 12th, 6 p.m. here at the Educational Services Center. Second announcement is that board members Tom Bennett and Jim Sorum will be recognized at the 2017 MSBA Leadership Conference in January. Each have attained the Director's Award for 16-17 for completing 100 or more hours of attendance at MSBA-sponsored meetings and activities within a 4-year period of time. So congratulations to both of you. Last is Normanville
finally
Community
made it.
College. I'm sorry?
I finally made it, huh?
Congratulations.
22 years.
Normanville Community College is doing a strategic planning process, and they will be holding a visioning session tomorrow, and I'm participating in that visioning session. That concludes my report.
It takes us back to the beginning because Normandale College is the one that's receiving the Omar Bonderer Award.
That's right.
Yes.
All right.
All right, is there any other,
Madam Chair, just on
Yeah. Oh, yes,
the 30th, from 9 to noon or something, is the Realtors Forum that board members can attend and observe what's going on? All right. Thank you.
And just a reminder that Director Bartolotta and Director Bennett and myself were attending the MSBA legislative whatever they call it.
Delegate.
Yeah, the legislative forum this Friday night and Saturday. Delegates Assembly, is that what they call it? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else to come before the board, this meeting's adjourned.